Hello, and welcome to the Imago Nutrition Podcast, where we answer your questions and give you practical nutrition strategies to help you and your family flourish. It is just a couple days past Halloween, and some of you may be struggling with the enormous amount of candy you now have in your house. My kids did something extra different this Halloween. They actually weighed how much candy they have, and we have a total of 11 pounds in our house. So that is absurd. First of all, we just had a little extra time because it was on a Friday versus a school night. And then, of course, my kids are a little bit older, so they can stay up a little bit later. And we just really had a great weather. Normally it's like raining or freezing. So we were able to walk for almost 2 hours trick or treating because my kids were having so much fun. So I am not surprised by any means that they got 11 pounds of candy, but I'm sure, like you're thinking, now what? No matter your health goals, having 11 pounds of candy in your house can be less than helpful, right? Maybe you're fearful of eating more than you need, causing weight gain, or maybe you're not really concerned about weight gain, but you know you don't need that extra sugar, so you're struggling with how do I have self-control? They're just deliciously tempting and they're sitting right here in my house and I'm working from home or I come home from a hard day of work. So they're always calling my name. Or maybe you're concerned it will disappear without you noticing, just mindless snacking. If you work from home, it's obviously available all the time. Or if you come home in the evening and you're tired and you don't even notice, but you're at the pantry and all of a sudden you've had 5 pieces of candy. So mindless snacking might be a concern of yours. Or maybe you're just concerned that you're going to derail all of those really good, healthy habits you've been working so hard on. And you're just kind of frustrated that it's in your house. And what do you do? How can you have a healthy relationship with candy or sweets? And how can you foster that for your family? So I'm so glad you're here today. So what I want to give you today is just 3 practical steps to deal with all of the candy surrounding you. And as we're in November now, so this will also be helpful for the holidays coming up because, of course, the holidays are full of desserts as well. So just 3 practical strategies for you today. So let's just dive in. So the first one is to slow down, eliminate distractions, and really pay attention to the taste of the candy. Do you really like this piece of candy, right? This might be unrealistic for your children to pick, okay, yeah, I really don't like this candy. Some kids are like that. They really only like chocolate or they really only like the fruit kind. But have been eating for longer and your taste buds are a little bit more mature at this point. So slow down and just pay attention and see which one is my real favorite out of all of these choices. And just thinking about, your food as having a budget and you wouldn't spend, money on a shirt that just is okay. When you go shopping, you would really go for a shirt that really feels good and fits well. So the same thing with food. You want to really just spend it on what is really appealing to you. The way I do this is I do practice making homemade desserts because homemade, you can, one, influence how much sugar is in the dessert recipe. So you can start to prefer less sweet desserts. And then 2, you're just not going to be as tempted by the processed desserts because the homemade ones are going to taste better. So that's just one way that can be helpful to really slow down and take notice of what is your favorite. And on top of that, you can see that we're incorporating those mindful eating habits when you're enjoying something sweet. The second one would be to work on just lowering the sugar in your diet in general so that you prefer less sweet foods, because you can imagine, of course, the candy that your trick-or-treaters brought home is really sweet. There's not like the 90% dark chocolate in there. So we really, if we have our taste buds in our favor, it's going to be a lot easier to work towards what your goal is, to have a healthy frequency, having a moderate amount of sweets instead of too much. So, when I say lower the added sugar in your diet, I am not talking about turning to sugar substitutes, because actually sugar substitutes have a higher sweetness level, and they can, not always, but they can make you crave more sweets. So it depends on the person for that. So really take notice if, something made with Splenda or stevia makes you crave more sweets or helps satisfy your sweet cravings. But what I'm really talking about is looking at like having plain, and then if you are used to the flavored, then mix half and half. For example, if you are used to flavored yogurt, mix it with half plain yogurt. Or if you're used to flavored oatmeal, mix it with half plain oatmeal. Or just use less of the sugar that you incorporate in your diet, and look for on the label the ones that are lower added sugar, not zero added sugar, right? If it says zero added sugar and it tastes sweet, then you are having a sugar substitute in that product. So the first tip, let me just sum all of that information up for you. The first tip is to practice mindful eating by slowing down, eliminating distractions. Be fully present when you have a piece of candy or a dessert, to notice really, do I like this or would I prefer something else? And then naturally with this goal, your goal is to prefer less sweet foods. And one way you can do that is choosing lower added sugar foods throughout your day, not zero added sugar. And then 2, consider making some homemade desserts instead of having processed desserts, because you can have more control and you will naturally prefer less sweet foods, which will help with your goals. So that is tip number 1. And there's a lot that goes into that. We could probably spend, the rest of the episode on just that tip. So if you want more information, let me know. My email, I'll just give that out right now, is Danielle, Danielle, at imagonutrition.com. So Danielle at imago, IMAGO nutrition.com. So we could, again, spend a lot more time on that first tip, but just practice mindful eating and think about, how can I lower my sweet preference? Okay, so tip number 2 is to watch your words and notice your thoughts. Okay, so for the first one, you want to actually notice your thoughts first, because that influences what comes out of your mouth. And so when I say watch your words, I'm really more thinking about your family and what you're saying to your kids and your spouse and those around you. Okay, so first we have to notice our thoughts. And while I would prefer 0 pounds of candy in the house, I do know that my kids and myself can enjoy candy and still take care of our bodies. So we always talk here at Imago Nutrition about the balance of pleasure and purpose for success in long-term health. Because let's just take one question for an example. If you were to only eat for purpose, if you were only to eat to nourish your body, what would happen? You would get bored, right? If you don't like the taste of your food and you're only eating that chicken, broccoli, and rice because you feel like that's what I have to eat because that's what I have to do to take care of my body, you're going to get bored. That's why we have taste buds, to enjoy our foods. And if we enjoy those foods that are good for our bodies, then we're merging the balance of pleasure and purpose together, right? But we still have room to enjoy those foods that really don't nourish your body. Okay. Our stomachs are no longer the size of a pea like when we were born. So we have extra space and extra calories that we can use to have desserts or something sweet, just because we like the taste of it. Okay, so we just don't want to do that all the time. Obviously, if we only ate out of pleasure, our health would go down. So we really just need to balance the pleasure and purpose in eating. So when all calories are accounted for, okay, or you're not even calorie counting, you're just listening to your body and stopping when you feel satisfied and not eating until you're full. Okay, so if we're stopping and we're satisfied and not eating until we're full, and we're not we're maintaining our weight. So when calories are accounted for, desserts or not any food at all, not just desserts, but any food does not cause weight gain. Okay, carbs don't cause weight gain, sugar does not cause weight gain. It's when our calories are more than our body needs. Okay, so you can either do that with calorie counting or you can do that with mindful eating practices. But those are the thoughts that need to be in your head in order for your words to come out to foster a positive relationship with food for you and your family. Okay, so if I know that sugar doesn't cause weight gain, then I can say stuff that doesn't hurt my children's relationship with food. Okay, so some things that we really don't want to say is you need to eat some real food before you have the dessert or the candy, because then they're thinking, okay, well, this isn't real food. What is it? Okay, that's not really teaching them anything. We really want to think about focusing on the purpose of the food or the function of the food, such as carbohydrates give you energy, and protein helps you feel your tummy feel full. So if we're calling candy junk food or you name it, there's lots of bad words we could use for candy. If we're saying those things, it's not actually at all encouraging them to have less. Okay. So it also can, just kind of harm the relationship with food. We want to think of all foods are created equal. Obviously, there's different purposes. So something you could say instead is if we have too much candy, then we will have too much energy, and that can actually make us be really tired. Okay. So we don't want too much energy. We just want the right amount for your body. Okay. So, there's lots of ways to practically practice this with your family. For example, one is you really want to establish a portion serving for your kids, but that also practice times where they get to choose how much their body wants or needs, so that if they eat too much, they get to learn, okay, that was too much for my body, I feel sick. And if they don't ever have practice with that when they're out of your care, then they're going to go a little crazy. So we really want to set them up for success when we're not around, just kind of practicing at home in a safe space, where they can learn what is appropriate for their body. But in general, most often you are just saying, not anything bad about the candy, but just saying, okay, 2 pieces of candy for tonight. And then just leave it at that. You do not need any explanations. And then over time, hopefully they will learn that that is an appropriate amount for them, or as they get older, maybe 3 pieces, what have you. So we are going to practice as a family, or I encourage you to practice as a family, what frequency of dessert is appropriate, where they're not considering desserts as a forbidden fruit, and they're not considering desserts as that something they can have all the time, all day long, no matter what. Okay, so just practicing a frequency that decreases the forbidden fruit phenomenon. And if we have it every day, then it's just increasing the desire to have it every day, which is not helpful. So that second tip, to sum it up, is to watch your words and notice your thoughts. Okay, so how is your relationship with desserts or sweets? And how can we retrain our thoughts to not consider them the enemy and consider how can we balance the pleasure and purpose of eating? I know everything in moderation is overused, but honestly, that is what we are looking for. We need that frequency to not feel like we're craving, and then there's not a forbidden fruit. So that just means meeting in the middle and balancing the pleasure and purpose of eating. And then also, again, whatever's in your head is going to come out. So if we can retrain those thoughts, then hopefully the words that come out of our mouth will be fostering a positive relationship with food. Again, if you want more information on that tip alone, I would be happy to help. Again, my email, Danielle@imagonutrition.com. Okay, so the last tip that I have for you is to just really focus on the positive. I always do that with my clients and the goals that we're talking about. I'm never talking about like, what can you decrease today? What can you avoid? We're talking about what can you add? And if you have all these other positive, healthy habits in your life, the candy really might not be as tempting or of a struggle as it may feel like. Okay, so one healthy habit, or of course, just promoting health and mental and physical. Just how much are you exercising? Not to punish yourself for how much candy you're eating, but the more we move our body, the better we feel mentally and physically. Or possibly getting enough sleep. Okay, when we get enough sleep, that actually decreases our cravings, and specifically our cravings for comfort foods or carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates specifically. So, getting enough sleep could be another healthy habit. Are you getting enough protein and fiber? Those are going to help you feel satisfied, right? If you're hungry all day long and there's candy sitting there, well, then that's going to be pretty hard to, decrease the resistance of, having candy all day long. So then another one could be just getting enough water, right? When our body feels hungry, we could actually be dehydrated. So that last tip there is really simple. Focus on all those positive habits that you already have. Again, not to outweigh your right to have, however much candy you want, right? That's not going to be helpful. That's not setting you up for success. But just noticing that, like, there's a other part of the equation, right? Where we are nourishing our body, hopefully in all these other ways. And that can help us really be just less tempted by it, right? If you're working hard, you had a good workout, and you had some high fiber, high protein breakfast, well, you might not be thinking about candy at least in the first half of your day. And then we have to think about the second half of our day. Are we getting up and stretching, giving ourselves a mental break? You can take a break from work without taking a snack, right? How else can you treat yourself without food? Okay, so all of these positive, healthy habits that we have in place, or if you want help in getting those healthy habits in place, again, just reach out to us. We're here to help you. And I hope you have found this episode short and sweet and very helpful. And if there is a question that you would like us to tackle, please feel free to visit our website at imagonutrition.com, and you can submit your question imagonutrition.com/podcast. We just want to encourage you to subscribe, leave us a review, or share with a friend, and follow us on social media on all the platforms at Imago Nutrition. We just want to say thank you to our theme song from Happy Pill, Thinkin Bout Food. Have a great day.